Hey everybody, if you clicked on this video, then you know what it is. It's a director ranking of Ryan Coogler's films. With the release of Sinners, his fifth film, I thought I would watch all of his films that I hadn't seen and rank them. And now that I've watched them, I can firmly say that I love this director's work, and I'm really excited to talk about it. Before we get into the video, I would like to just get this out of the way. If you would consider hitting the like button, if you like the video, of course, it would make sense to hit the like button. If you also want to leave a comment about how I can maybe improve the videos moving forward, or ideas that you would like me to talk about, that would also be greatly appreciated. And if you would consider subscribing. And so with that out of the way, I would also like to say that this watch of Ryan Coogler's films has proved his films to be kind of special to me, more so than I was expecting. I feel like after Fruitvale Station, he kind of became the franchise guy, and I think in a really good way, where he took franchises in really good directions and made really good films inside those franchises with Creed and the Black Panther films. But Sinners being his newest film and his first ever original film, his first ever film that he completely originally wrote, was an original idea. I was really excited to check this one out, and the trailers definitely got me interested. I'd also like to say that all of them are films that I really enjoy, so whichever one is at the bottom, I still really like. I still really enjoy the bottom one, the top one, all the ones in between. And so without further ado, let's get into it. Coming in the last place has to be Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Again, I really enjoy this film a lot, more than I was expecting. It's one that I was late to the party on because when it came out, I was kind of coming out of my MCU phase, where I would guess I would say I was falling out of love with the MCU, with a lot of the stuff that they were putting out at the time, and so this is one I actually didn't end up seeing in the theaters. There was a couple that I didn't end up seeing in the theaters. Thor: Love and Thunder as well. That's one I don't regret not seeing in the theater, because I had watched it since, and well, it sucks. Wakanda Forever does not suck. Wakanda Forever is really good, actually. It works differently than most MCU films. It's a lot heavier, more like emotional and somber, and like has just a darker tone, I think, just in nature, because of the absence of T'Challa and of course Chadwick Boseman, who was phenomenal in the role of Black Panther. And you feel his absence throughout the film, like his absence, sort of his death permeates the film, and the whole film is pretty much a tribute to him, I think. There's a lot of really like touching moments regarding his character, and that sort of parallel the man himself, I think. And the characters, and like they're all affected by his absence, and I don't want to say I really enjoyed that, because that's morbid, but I really appreciate it. Getting into the like film itself, I think it definitely had a hard job of kind of reworking itself, or not itself. They had a hard job of reworking the movie to fit a different narrative, since Chadwick Boseman had passed, and so I think they did a really great job with bringing different new characters to the forefront and introducing new characters that I really enjoy actually. First of all, Shuri is you can you can see the difference in her character in Wakanda Forever from her character in the first Black Panther, and it's major to me because she's this like fun-loving, sarcastic. Um, she banters with her brother constantly, makes fun of people, scoffs at tradition. Um, and then you look at Wakanda Forever, and she's like this really serious, mostly serious woman who um, doesn't really find the humor in a lot of things anymore, and is changed by the death of her brother in a lot of ways, and you can see it, and I really appreciate that in the performance. And then you have like Okoye and Nakia who are given, I think, at least in Nakia's, in terms of Nakia's character, I think she has a larger role in this one because there's more room for her, and I really enjoy her character in this one probably more than the first. She feels more like of her own character rather than just T'Challa's interest. I mean, love interest. And then Okoye, I feel like, is probably not quite as strong as the first one. I feel like she's sidelined for the last like 40 minutes of the movie in a way, and I didn't love that. That's one of my probably least favorite things about the movie. But and then you have Queen Ramonda, who, spoiler alert, her death was pretty surprising, and I think also like necessary to move the characters into the third act, and I appreciated that, like, that they were willing to go there and it actually meant something. But while she was around, Queen Ramonda, the character, and the actress that plays her, Angela Bassett, like, her performance in the movie I think is phenomenal. She does a really good job of playing this like stern and like deeply saddened mother who's lost her husband and her son, and I appreciate that, her acting in the film. In terms of the villain, Namor, I really like Namor and the Atlanteans. I think their introduction is really good, really cool. He's another complex villain like Killmonger, not quite as strong, but I really like the world building that Ryan Coogler does in the film of building the Atlantean or Atlantis, and their culture and how it makes it distinct and interesting, just like he did in the first Black Panther, with Wakanda and their traditions and all that, and how he continues it in the second one. I really love all that stuff. A big negative, maybe not a big negative, but like one of the things that is like most apparent to me as a negative in the film, but still not, doesn't really drag the film down a whole lot, is just that there's so many locations in the movie, like so many, like probably 15, that it jumps from location to location, not just in like the first, like in the setup of the movie. Throughout the entire movie, it jumps from location to location, and like it tells you that you're in a new location every time, pretty much. And so it just makes it more apparent that we're jumping from place to place, and that it like you get kind of whiplash from it. You're not in one place for too long, like at any point during the movie, except, you know, like the final battle in Wakanda. But all that being said, I do really enjoy the film. I think a lot of people say it's too long and weirdly paced or unevenly paced. I don't. I like the length. I don't think it's too long. It feels like it is doing the world building. It's not one that I'm probably going to revisit super often inside the MCU just because it's so heavy, but it's one that I really, really appreciated and loved a lot of the stuff that they did while it was on. And I think revisiting it will be cool and rewarding. And so, yeah, I really like Wakanda Forever. Moving on to fourth is, I think this might be sort of an unpopular opinion, but it's Black Panther, the first one. I always liked Black Panther, but I think after rewatching it for this video, I like it more than ever. I love the world building, as I stated before, but just how believable like the world of Wakanda is, how like lived in their culture and their tradition feels, like the characters' relationships, like Queen Ramonda as a mother to T'Challa and Shuri as a sister to T'Challa and T'Challa as a new king. I love the way that they do the ritual battle for the throne, sort of. I really love that stuff and how it just all feels like a part of this world in Wakanda. And so and I don't really have a ton to say about the film because I feel like everything that I said positive about Wakanda Forever is also positive here, but I feel like it's slightly better. But the negative is of this film, the negatives are maybe a little bit stronger, like in this than Wakanda Forever, where I think the third act of Wakanda Forever is really great. I thought it was awesome. Like it was maybe the best part of the movie, other than the last like couple minutes where I think it wraps up the loose threads a little bit too quickly. Where you have the first Black Panther, its third act is probably its weak point. Is the weakest part of the film, where a lot of the CGI is not good. Not good at all. And then you have stuff like soldiers riding rhinos, and it just gets a little bit like silly, I think. As much as I do like the fight between Killmonger and T'Challa, as bad as it might look at certain points, I do think it has dramatic resonance, even if it doesn't look great. And how it ends with Killmonger dying, who I think is really like one of the best villains in the MCU. Really complex, and like he's one of those villains where you can't root for him because of the way that he's doing things, but he's not exactly wrong in how he feels. Like he was wronged, but the way he's going about things is just the wrong way, and so you can't root for him, but you can't help but feel bad for him, and that's where you have like a really good, like compelling villain. I think one of the more compelling villains in the MCU. With the character of Ross, played by Martin Freeman, I think that you run into some trouble of like, there's this character who we don't know how to use him, and so they put him in like this situation where he has to stop these two ships from getting out of Wakanda, but he's stuck at the med bay or whatever, so he has to use the like VR pilot station thing where you can fly your ship remotely, not remotely, remotely. And so he's not in actual danger from the ships, he just has to stop them. But the way that they put him in danger, like to add any tension to the scene, is like have this other random ship shooting at him, like trying to shoot at him through glass, but it shoots the glass like 15 times and the glass still doesn't break. So it's like, the glass really that strong? I know it's probably got like vibranium in it. Anyway, I really enjoy Black Panther a lot. I think the world building and like the directing and the villains in those films are what make them special. Along with the performances, especially Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa. I feel like I almost forgot to talk about him as a character, where you have him like who's this like stalwart, like strong lead character who doesn't really have a lot of faults, but he's still an interesting character because the villain that they pit him against, like, he sees that he's been wronged, and I feel like I can't explain it well, but I think T'Challa was a fantastic character as well as Black Panther, and yeah. Moving on to third. Now, these top three, I feel like, is where it gets hard. I feel like I know the ranking. I know what's third, at least, and for a while I like swapped between one and two, like I couldn't decide which it was, but third, I think if I watch it again and I sit with it more, it could become two. Just because I've been thinking about it, and it gets more special to me the more I think about it. But third is Creed. I feel like that is gonna. I've seen Fruitvale Station at a lot of people's like fifth spot for this ranking, which is crazy to me. Because I don't Black Panther and Wakanda Forever are not really on the same level, I think, as these top three movies, as good as they are. But third is Creed. I gotta take a sip of water. So yeah, Creed. I thought that Creed was a really, after watching through the Rocky series in such a short amount of time, like for the first time, I'd seen the first one a couple times before, and so I finally, like, when Ryan Coogler, I knew that he was gonna have a new movie and that I wanted to do a director ranking of his movies, but Creed was one of them. I was like, oh, I need to see all the other Rocky movies before I watch Creed. So I binged through the Rocky movies as quickly as possible. And so watching a Rocky movie every like other day, basically, I felt that Creed was a really needed breath of fresh air in the franchise. Where, as much as I love the character of Rocky and thought that Rocky Balboa, the movie, was my favorite entry in the franchise since the original, up to that point anyway, I thought that giving the mantle to a different character, and none other than Apollo Creed's son, Adonis, I thought that was like a brilliant shifting of the lead role, and really creates like, you can still have Rocky in there because he knew Apollo Creed. He was friends with Apollo Creed. He has guilt over Apollo Creed's death. And so his son being the lead, the main character in this like new revamping of the franchise, this new continuation of the franchise, I think creates a lot of like, creates situations where you have a lot of like really complex relationships. I think there's a lot of really complex relationships in this, where Adonis goes to see Rocky and he wants him to train him because his father trained Rocky. And I think Adonis himself is a really compelling character, where you have him searching for this legacy of his own outside of his father, he doesn't want to be Creed. For much of the film, he's Adonis Johnson, I believe. And so he doesn't even refer to himself as a Creed. He doesn't want to take on that name because he wants to be his own person. But he wants to be like as good as his father was at what they were both passionate about, which is boxing, of course. And so I think you have a really compelling character in Adonis and his relationship with Bianca, I believe. Their relationship is really like sweet and reminiscent of Rocky's relationship with Adrian, only in that it actually takes up a good amount of the film's runtime, and that they found their future wives in at just the right time to give them I think the passion and that extra guidance that they needed at the time to go for it, to yeah. Other than Creed himself or Adonis himself, I think Rocky has a really compelling story in here as well, where all the people that he knows, like Adrian, of course, his wife has been gone since Rocky Balboa, and now Polly is gone, and so he feels like he's old news, like his future is in the past, whereas Creed's future is ahead of him. But Rocky feels like he's no longer relevant, and that he doesn't really have a reason to live anymore. And now that he's diagnosed with cancer, he just doesn't see a point in going on, because he doesn't feel like he has a reason to live. And so the cancer is more like a reason to die to him rather than a reason to keep fighting. And through Adonis, he finds this new reason to live, and this new zeal for life, this newfound purpose in helping Creed. And as much as Rocky is mentoring Creed, or mentoring Adonis kind of mentors Rocky to keep fighting for his life. So I think their relationship is really beautiful in this film, and Rocky's story in this film is so emotionally resonant, to see this character in a very different place in his life. I love that we get to see him, in the late or mid 70s all the way to 2015. You get to see him every few years and see where he's at in his life. And I think that it's awesome, and I think he's at his maybe most compelling since the first one in Rocky Balboa and Creed, where he's older and he's not even fighting. And so I just think that they found ways to keep Rocky the character so emotionally, so compelling, and so just good, that I really appreciate the character in the franchise, and he's quickly becoming maybe one of my favorite characters in film. Not that that's out of the ordinary for somebody to say, but I get it now. I think to watch the first one and to say that would be to maybe, I think it's jumping the gun, where I don't think you've seen enough of him for him to be one of your favorite characters ever. I think he's at his best in that movie, but I think you need to see him in all the other ones to see his ups and downs in his life, and in his relationship with Polly, his friends, and with, of course, Adrian. And so anyway, I love Creed. I think the directing, is great as well. Like super fresh, different, um, exciting. The film is exciting in the fights. I think the fights are the best since. Well, I mean, you could make an argument that they're the best ever because they're like newer and the choreography is better. I think. But yeah, I loved the film. Moving on to my runner up, and this took a lot of like deliberation. I had it at one for a while, and then I gave the other film more thought, and I just kept thinking about it and kept hearing people's thoughts about it, and it just kept getting better in my head. And I haven't seen um, my number one. Sorry, I'm actually getting ahead of myself. Number two is Fruitvale Station. So that tells you what number one is, of course. But number two, Fruitvale Station. I think Fruitvale Station, both times I've watched it, have been some of the, like, two of the most meaningful experiences watching a film in my life, I think, where at the end, I think I cried. Like after the film, after the credits had rolled, I was still crying for a few minutes, and I was just kind of like reeling in it, and it's the most I've felt, like even after the film was over, I think. Just because the story is so, it's a lot. It's heavy. It makes you angry. It like because of what happened to Oscar Grant, this real man whose life was taken way too short, and at the beginning of his life was taken away from him when he was turning it around. And that's what makes it so angering, because a life was taken unnecessarily by someone who's supposed to uphold the law, someone who's supposed to serve and protect the people, to protect the people. And so this is not a political opinion here, but you get it. As for the film itself, I think that Ryan Coogler just did such an excellent job of showcasing Oscar Grant's day leading up to the event at Fruitvale Station, and just the ups and downs of it, and showing like just a couple of flashbacks throughout the film of what his life was like in prison, and what, you know, of why he was in there. And then you, every time you flash back to the present, like the day, it makes it more, it makes each of his acts more like deliberate, in like when you see him dump his drugs into the ocean, it's so meaningful. When you see him run and play with his daughter, and make phone calls and talk on the phone and try to get his job back, it's such small things. And visit his mom on her birthday. You're seeing a man who's like healing from the mistakes that he's made, and trying to make his life better, and trying to improve himself, not just for himself but for the people around him, for his daughter, for his wife, for his family. And so it's just a heart-wrenching film that I think holds a special place in my heart, because of the experiences that I've had with it, and how much it made me feel, and how much I feel for Oscar in the film. And not to mention Michael B. Jordan is really phenomenal in the film. And so moving on from that film, and raising The mood up, number one, is of course Sinners. I have not seen the film a second time, but I've thought about it a lot, and it just has to be number one for me. It's the one that, after I saw it, I sort of realized Ryan Coogler is a director who each of his films like are special to me in some way. They're with Creed, I think you have some of the best Rocky stuff, and you have a new story for a new character, but it's this fantastic continuation of one of my favorite characters in film now, in Rocky, and the way that he blends it all in that film um, is special to me. And Wakanda Forever is, of course, special because of the way that they handled T'Challa, or Chadwick Boseman's death beautifully, I think. Black Panther is a special film of its own because of it being like the first black superhero to reach the like mainstream, the in the MCU. Like, they made it big. They finally gave like a black superhero a voice, like of that size and caliber, like blockbuster size. And he was so like influential and empowering to so many people, the character, and the film being so well done makes it pretty special. And then Fruitvale Station, I just explained, is moving. But Sinners is, I feel like, it's an original concept. It's a horror film, which is that's my favorite genre. That's my stuff. But it's a lot more than a horror film. I wouldn't say it's even primarily a horror film. The horror stuff comes in like the second hour or the last hour of the film, where for much of the film it's just building the characters, building the setting, building the world. And I think it does it all so well, where Ryan Coogler is phenomenal at world building, as we've talked about. It's in here as well, even in this own self-contained movie. The characters you root for, you want to see them get out of there, and when certain ones don't, it's gut-wrenching. The performances from Michael B. Jordan, as these two separate characters, these two twins who look the same, but they're two distinct characters. That when you see one, it's like, this is one character, and you see the other, and it's an entirely different one, and that's so impressive. And you don't even see Michael B. Jordan; you just see the characters, and so that's when you have like just a really great performance, I think. All the other side characters are fun, and not to mention like the mood and the tone and the setting itself, where you have the 1930s, I think, Mississippi. No. 1930s. I can't think of it right now, but you have it set in the 1930s, where the blues scene was like was really alive, and you have these characters who want to open a juke joint, which is like a club for blues back then. And the film, like, revolving around music, just, I think the original score and the music in it, and the musical moments, not that it's a musical, but the moments where you have them singing and it's musical, it elevates the film and creates this really intense and unique atmosphere that is endlessly enjoyable. But it, like, peaks in this one scene where I don't want to explain it too intricately or explain it too deeply. In case you haven't seen the film, I don't want to spoil things, but there's this one scene where they're dancing in the juke joint, and the one character, Michael B. Jordan's character, his character's cousin is a blues artist, and the way that they say his music could like bridge the gap between like the past and the future and the present, like the soulless and the soul, like the evil and good and all that. And the way that it's visualized in this one scene is, you know which scene I'm talking about. If you haven't seen the film, and if you go to see the film after watching this video, you'll know what scene I'm talking about. That scene is one of the best scenes I have ever seen in a theater. It's one of the best experiences I've ever had in a theater, was watching that scene. My jaw was on the floor. I think I started crying just because of how powerful it was. It's that scene in the film itself it just reminds you like how good movies can be sometimes, and why I love going to the theater to see movies, and what I love about films and how they can make us feel. It just has romance, the horror aspect I barely talked about, where you have the vampires, which I love vampires. They've got unique lore, where a lot of vampire films have the same lore or similar lore, and it's not really that interesting in that aspect. But this has some unique stuff where it's different, and it's different from other vampire films. So yeah, I love Sinners. It's a genre blender, and I pretty much love everything that it's doing. It reaches a point in the story where the like vampire side of things is over, but there's more story in the way that it ends, with the end of the story. Is so satisfying, and not something that I thought I was wanting from the film, but once it gave it to me, I was like, oh, that was awesome. There is a like mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene that I unfortunately didn't know about, and left the film before I got to see it, but I've heard that it's really not important, but it is cool. But so yeah, there's a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene. The mid-credit scene plays during is interplayed with the credits, and then after those like credits play, it'll play the rest of the scene, and I think it's a really important scene that adds a lot of depth and a different like perspective to the film itself. And then also I think it's just like a good epilogue of tying up these characters and loose ends that needed tying up. So yeah, I loved Sinners a lot. I have not seen it a second time, but I will be doing that soon. And yeah, thank you, Ryan Coogler. Thank you, all of you, for watching. If you'd like to see more of me, I don't know why you would, but if you'd like to see more of me, please hit the like button. That would be a great sign to me that you want to see more. And as for things that I'm planning on working on coming up, I'm going to be doing like hopefully a weekly video where I sort of learn things about film film history, certain films in particular, and I'll be doing videos about it, like what I learned, what I'm going to learn for the following week, just because I want to get better at all this stuff, and I think taking you through it could be kind of cool. I'll be doing, as I do that, like I'll probably get sidetracked with different projects, and that's kind of the point. Especially, hopefully, the remainder of this year and maybe the year following, I'm going to focus on a lot of different things. I'm going to try a lot of different things, and so yeah, if you would join me for the ride, that would be really great. Hopefully, I'll have some horror related stuff. I don't really know what. I'll definitely try to do a video for Final Destination Bloodlines, the new one coming out. I have an idea for that I am excited about. And so also a Rocky ranking of the Rocky franchise. That might have been apparent in this video that I could do that. But I have one more film to watch in there, and then I'm going to film it, and so probably within the week, I'll be doing that. Yeah, as for the most immediate things coming up, I think that's it. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.